A very strange and increasingly dangerous weather pattern is taking shape across the country right now, and it is putting millions of people directly in the path of several life-threatening hazards at the very same time. Significant and life-threatening flooding is continuing across Texas, where round after round of thunderstorms keeps training over the exact same communities hour after hour. At the same time, a massive plume of hazardous wildfire smoke is pouring south out of Canada and fouling the air across the Midwest and the Northeast. And as we push into this weekend, multiple rounds of severe weather are lining up from the Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley and along the East Coast. This is one of the most active setups we have tracked in a long time, and it is only getting more complicated from here. So let me get you caught up on everything you need to know, because there is a lot to unpack today. Before we look ahead, I want to start with what already happened, because yesterday was catastrophic across parts of Texas. We had catastrophic flooding, and on top of that, a tornado struck San Antonio. Those two things happening in the same region, on the same day, tell you just how volatile this atmosphere has become. And unfortunately, as you are about to see, we are not finished with either the flooding or the tornado threat quite yet. Let me take you back to yesterday first. Over in Bourne, Texas, water rescues were ongoing as a flash flood emergency was in effect, and that is the highest level of flood alert that exists. When you hear the words flash flood emergency, that means lives are in immediate danger and water is rising fast enough to trap people where they stand. Several areas across that region picked up between 12 and 24 inches of rain. Oh, and that is 2 feet of water falling from the sky, much of it in a very short window, over ground that simply cannot absorb it fast enough. When that much rain comes down that quickly, creeks become rivers, roads become channels, and low-lying neighborhoods can go underwater in a matter of minutes. And the worst part is that more rain is on the way today for many of those exact same locations. Then there was the tornado. A tornado struck San Antonio yesterday, touching down near the Six Flags on the north side of the city. It was on the ground for a couple of minutes, with power flashes visible as it moved through, which is what happens when a tornado tears into electrical infrastructure and transformers explode. It also showed a debris signature on radar, which is the radar confirming that the storm was lofting material into the air. As of right now, no injuries and no fatalities have been reported, which is genuinely good news given how dangerous that situation was, though there was some damage in that area near the north side. So we go into today already knowing this atmosphere is more than capable of producing both dangerous flooding and tornadoes, sometimes within the same set of storms. Now here's where you need to pay close attention, because the flooding and the tornado threat are not done. We have another moderate risk of excessive rainfall in place today, and that risk covers Caryville, Uvalde, Junction, and back into San Angelo. If those names sound familiar, it is because these are the very same areas that have already been hammered by rainfall over the last couple of days. That is the cruel part of this setup. The ground there is already saturated, the rivers are already up, and now we are pointing another round of heavy rain at the same exhausted communities. More major flooding is going to be on the table today, and it does not take much additional rain to push already swollen waterways past their limits. Even if you live in San Antonio itself, you are not off the hook. We are expecting several inches of rain to be on the table there as well. So if you are anywhere in south central Texas today, you need to treat this as a serious flood day, not a passing shower. Know your evacuation routes, know which roads flood first in your neighborhood, and never try to drive through water covering a roadway, because you cannot tell how deep it is, or whether the road underneath has already washed away. There is at least a sliver of relief in the forecast, and it comes on Friday. By Friday, most of the flooding risk will start to pull out of this region. There could still be some leftover showers and thunderstorms drifting around, but overall the flooding risk becomes far more isolated in nature for your Friday. So the message for Texas is simple. Today is the dangerous day. Get through today safely, stay aware overnight, and conditions should slowly begin to improve heading into the end of the week. Let me walk you through the future radar now, because I want you to understand what is going to happen across the southern plains over the next 48 hours, hour by hour. Beginning with today, there's already a lot of heavy rain out there across Texas right now, and it is concentrated mainly near Rock Springs and Kerrville. That heavy rain is going to continue well into the late morning hours before it likely starts to fizzle a little bit this afternoon. But here's the catch. Even as the main band weakens, if any little rogue supercells can manage to develop near San Antonio this afternoon, I would not rule out an isolated tornado threat. So do not let your guard down just because the morning rain tapers off. This atmosphere can spin up a quick, dangerous storm with very little warning. After that, scattered showers and thunderstorms will continue tonight across the region, and then another band of heavy rainfall is likely to move in this evening and into the overnight hours, focused near Kerrville, San Antonio, Uvalde, and back up toward Junction. If you live in any of these areas, I need you to get ready for additional rainfall overnight tonight. Overnight flooding is especially dangerous because you are asleep, you cannot see the water rising, and the warnings can come while you are least prepared to respond. So before you go to bed tonight, make sure your phone alerts are turned on and turned up, and have a plan to get to higher ground if you need it. Then, as we roll into tomorrow morning, we could have another major flash flood risk start to set up, this time near San Angelo in Sonora. So that is yet another area and yet another window where big problems could develop. This is the theme of this entire Texas setup. It is not one storm and done. It is wave after wave, night after morning after afternoon, all targeting a region that is already at its breaking point. Now let me widen the view, because it is not just Texas dealing with rain. We are also talking about a big-time rain risk across the desert southwest. Monsoon season is fully in effect right now, and we are going to see a lot of rain across that region over the next 48 hours as well. Over in Arizona and New Mexico, most places are only going to pick up around 1/10 of an inch of rain, up to maybe an inch or two in the wetter spots. But there could be a few isolated locations that come in closer to 2 to 3 inches of rain, and those higher totals are most likely near Tucson and Phoenix. In the desert, even a couple of inches of rain can produce dangerous flash flooding, because that hard, dry ground does not soak water up. It simply sheds it into washes and low spots that can go from bone dry to raging in minutes. So if you are in the desert southwest, respect the monsoon and stay out of those washes. But make no mistake, the big story over the next couple of days remains right here in Texas. And unfortunately, the guidance is painting a pretty scary picture. Right now, the high-resolution model is showing that there could be some areas picking up as much as 24 inches of rain over the next 48 hours, with most of that falling today near Kerrville and Junction City. We could have some pockets that receive over half a foot of rainfall. And so, once again, a very dangerous rain day is directly ahead of us. That is the kind of rainfall that produces the flash flood emergencies we were just talking about, the kind that leads to water rescues and washed out roads and neighborhoods cut off from help. I do want to add an important caution here for those of you in Uvalde and even over in San Antonio. I know the high-resolution model is not showing a whole lot of rain in your specific areas right now, but that absolutely does not mean you are safe from a lot of rain. In fact, the model has already been a little bit off in terms of where the heaviest rainfall has been setting up this morning. Most of the heaviest rain has actually been landing near Uvalde, and yet the model only has about 1 inch of rain falling there. So I think there's going to be plenty more than that in some of these locations. The lesson is to never let a single model forecast lull you into a false sense of security in a setup this dangerous. Prepare for more than the model shows, because these training thunderstorms have a way of overachieving right on top of the people least expecting it. Now, flooding is not the only big story on the table. There is actually a whole stack of stories to get through over the next 7 to 10 days, and I want to make sure you're ready for all of them. One of the bigger developments that is going to come to fruition this weekend and into next week is a significant pattern change in the jet stream. Right now, we have a large dip in the jet stream draped across the northeast, but generally speaking, there are no major weather events happening underneath it just yet. That is about to change. As we go into Saturday, that dip in the jet stream is going to get considerably larger, and we do have a pretty solid chance of seeing severe weather Saturday and Sunday across the Great Lakes and the Northeast as a storm system swings by. This could lead to a really significant damaging wind threat across that region as we move into the weekend and even into early next week. And it does not stop there. Look ahead to Monday and Tuesday, and we are going to see a big dip in the jet stream drop down across the Midwest. This could allow for some significant severe weather to make a return near Chicago and also near Minneapolis on Tuesday. Then, as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week, that dip in the jet stream is going to grow even more, which should allow a lot of cooler air to filter across the Northeast. Meanwhile, notice that we have a large mean area of high pressure setting up across the southern plains, and that is what is going to help build a tremendous amount of heat over the next 7 days. It is going to turn scorching hot across Texas by the end of next week, which is its own kind of hazard after everything that region is already going through. And then, by next weekend, closer to the very end of July, a lot of uncertainty remains. It does look like it could get pretty active again around the end of July and into early August, but there's a lot of uncertainty about anything beyond the next 7 days right now, so we will keep refining that as we go. Let me zoom back in on Saturday, because I have to say, Saturday is starting to look a little bit more concerning for severe weather across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. Looking at the Rufus model for Saturday afternoon, notice how it develops a large cluster of thunderstorms just north of Toronto. There could even be some storms popping up across Michigan during the afternoon as well. But what is more concerning is what this becomes later in the day. This will likely grow into a pretty widespread wind threat during the late afternoon and evening hours, stretching all the way from Springfield and Peoria back over toward Burlington, Vermont. That is a huge distance, And it tells you this is not going to be a localized event. This is a large-scale wind threat. And the data backs that up. Right now, the Rufus model is showing several pockets of 60 to 70 mile per hour winds, with almost every one of these little clusters of thunderstorms. Winds of that magnitude are absolutely capable of snapping trees, tearing down power lines, and leaving hundreds of thousands without electricity. So there is a real chance that Saturday features a pretty widespread wind threat across the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. I do think this will impact Harrisburg, Scranton, and even back toward Washington, D.C. during the late evening and overnight hours. And then this whole system will eventually move offshore as we head into the morning hours on Sunday. If you live anywhere in that corridor, Saturday is your day to have a plan. Damaging wind events like this can move quickly and hit after dark, so charge your devices and be ready to lose power for a while. One really noticeable thing on the backside of this system is that temperatures are going to drop quite a bit for your Saturday afternoon. We are talking about high temperatures in the low 90s, but by Sunday morning, many areas, including upstate New York and back into Vermont, will drop all the way into the 50s for their low temperatures. So it is going to get quite a bit cooler out there behind the front. But generally speaking, this is just one of many storm systems that will impact this region over the course of the next 7 days. Because beyond Saturday and Sunday, we are looking at what I think is going to be a very active weather pattern. By Sunday and Monday, there could be another storm system that moves into the Midwest and the Great Lakes region, and that may lead to more severe weather. The exact location and intensity of any severe weather is still kind of up in the air right now for those 2 days, so I do not want to overpromise on specifics. Then Tuesday of next week could bring some severe weather along the East Coast as well, but I will point out that the models are still very split in terms of where exactly that severe weather setup may line up. So there's definitely a lot of uncertainty baked into next week, and honesty about that uncertainty matters more than false confidence. Heading into Tuesday night and Wednesday, high pressure near the surface should build across the Great Lakes. So I think Wednesday of next week is looking relatively quiet, which will be a welcome break for a lot of you. And then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday become highly uncertain once again. We could just be talking about smaller mesoscale severe weather during that stretch, or it could evolve into something more organized. After that, I do think we are going to start to see a few more big storm systems near the end of July, mainly focused across the Midwest, where we could have a few little troughing features developing. But again, the uncertainty there is still very high, so treat those late month details as a rough outlook rather than a firm forecast. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we will keep you posted with the latest on any new details that develop over the next few days. Now, I want to shift to another big concern that is happening right this moment, and that is the wildfire smoke draping the Midwest, the Great Lakes in the Northeast. This is all to blame on a batch of wildfires that flared up just a couple of days ago over in Canada. That smoke has been transported all across the Midwest because of very strong winds aloft coming out of the north and the west, which is not an ideal steering pattern for us at all. And even though there is some cooler air around, that is actually making the smoke really, really thick at the surface in a lot of places. And it is impacting a lot of you directly. There have been photos coming in from places like Wausau, Detroit, and even New York City, where people are dealing with respiratory issues in real time and watching the sky turn hazy and orange. Right now, the worst of it is over the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and also over New York. And this is only going to continue for the next 24 to 48 hours. If you have asthma, heart or lung conditions, or if you are elderly or caring for young children, please take this seriously. Limit your time outdoors, keep your windows closed, and run air filtration indoors if you have it. This is genuinely very hazardous air. Looking ahead, the high-resolution model does have the smoke backing off just a little bit on Friday, but it is still going to be in place across Wisconsin. And if you live over in Virginia, get ready, because you are going to get some of that wildfire smoke on Friday. It should even make its way down towards Charlotte and Raleigh as well. Then, by late Friday and into Saturday, there is a chance the smoke will start to push again farther to the east. So if you live in Wisconsin, there might be a break in this sometime late Friday into Saturday, which would be a relief. But the uncertainty here is very high right now because wildfires are an evolving situation and the smoke goes wherever the winds send it. The one piece of good news is that the upper-level winds should start to steer this wildfire smoke a bit more off to the east, rather than driving it southeast, as we go into the weekend. That means it might start to make its way out of the United States a little bit by the weekend. It will definitely still be lingering to some degree, so do not expect it to vanish overnight, but the trend by the weekend should at least be an improvement for many of you. We will keep tracking it closely, because with wildfires, things can change quickly. All right, let me pivot to the tropics, because, believe it or not, Hurricane season does exist in the Atlantic Ocean, even after a quiet stretch. I know we did not really have much of one last year, but right now there are two areas that we are watching for potential tropical development. The first is out in the far eastern Atlantic Ocean, coming right off the coast of Africa, and it has about a 10% chance of formation over the next 7 days. That one might develop into something down the road, but the uncertainty is definitely high, and it is far away. So it is not an immediate concern for anyone in the United States. The second area is the more notable one, and it is right off the coast of Florida. We are going to see a crashing cold front push out of Canada this weekend, and that front could lead to at least a low chance of tropical development as a low-pressure system tries to form near Florida. Now, I want to be very clear and very measured here. I'm not confident at all that a hurricane is going to develop out of this. I also do not think a tropical storm will probably form in this area either, because it is going to be very unlikely in this environment due to all the wind shear that is present. Wind shear tends to tear developing storms apart before they can organize, and there is plenty of it around. But here's the thing you actually need to focus on. Regardless of whether anything officially forms or gets a name, there is going to be a lot of rainfall associated with this system. And so flooding rainfall is the big concern here, especially near Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, and back toward Daytona Beach. You do not need a named storm to get dangerous flooding. So if you're in Florida this weekend, the headline for you is rain and flooding, not necessarily a hurricane. Then, once the system moves up the coast, could something eventually form? Yes, it is possible. But again, the uncertainty is still very high right now, and it is very unlikely that anything significant would develop, at least over the next few days. I do think something could form after that, maybe after the weekend, but at least for the next few days, things should be relatively okay on the development front. The flooding rainfall, once more, is the real story here, so that is where your attention belongs. If a tropical system does manage to develop near Florida, it might add some additional impacts on top of that, but the rain is the guaranteed part. Let me show you what the guidance is thinking on that rainfall. Right now, the national blend of models, which is basically a large blend of all the different forecast models, is showing a big area of heavy rainfall, especially near Tampa, Spring Hill, and Cedar Key. This is an area that should at least pick up 3 to 5 inches of rain this weekend and into early next week. But there could easily be some places that pick up way more than that. Most of the rain that the model is showing right now is mostly offshore, but there is a real chance that some of this could come onshore. And if it does, we could easily see some places along the coastline pick up even 12 inches of rain this weekend into early next week. That is a serious, life-altering amount of rain for a coastal community. For Central Florida and the east coast of Florida, there is a lot more uncertainty. But I think that no matter what happens, we should see somewhere around 2 to 5 inches of rain for most of central and northern Florida. So stay tuned, because things are definitely going to change as we get closer and the models come into better agreement. And depending on exactly what this tropical system does, there could also be some big-time rainfall farther north, near the Cape Hatteras area and Virginia Beach. There's even a chance that this feature does not develop near Florida at all, and instead develops into a tropical storm, or maybe even a hurricane, east of the Carolinas as we head into next week. But once again, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we are still very early into this. This could ultimately become a big-time coastal storm as we go into the weekend and next week, so it is absolutely worth watching closely. So let me tie all of this together for you, because there is a lot in motion. Today and tonight, the immediate danger is life-threatening flooding across Texas, from Kerrville and Junction to Uvalde, San Angelo, Sonora, and San Antonio, with an isolated tornado threat still possible. At the same time, hazardous wildfire smoke is blanketing the Midwest. Great Lakes and Northeast hitting hardest over the Upper Peninsula and New York before it slowly shifts east and reaches Virginia, Charlotte, and Raleigh on Friday. Into the weekend, a widespread damaging wind threat sets up Saturday from Springfield and Peoria to Burlington, Harrisburg, Scranton, and Washington, D.C., with 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts possible. And down in Florida, flooding rainfall of 3 to 5 inches, locally up to a foot, is the headline this weekend into early next week, with a low-end chance of tropical development that we will keep monitoring. Wherever you are watching from, there is very likely a piece of this pattern that applies directly to you over the next several days, whether that is flooding, wind, smoke, heat, or tropical rain. The atmosphere is genuinely restless right now, and the smartest thing any of us can do is stay informed, stay a step ahead, and take these threats seriously before they arrive, rather than after. If you are finding this forecast helpful, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and go ahead and turn on your notifications. Because with a pattern this active and this fast changing, I want to be able to reach you the moment something new develops. We will have fresh updates as the flooding evolves in Texas, as the smoke shifts across the country, And as the weekend wind threat and the Florida rainfall come into sharper focus, your best defense against dangerous weather is simply knowing it is coming. Let me leave you with the bottom line. This is a rare multi-hazard stretch of weather with flooding, tornadoes, damaging winds, thick wildfire smoke, building heat, and a developing tropical threat, all in play at once across a huge portion of the country. Several of them are unfolding at the same time in the same regions, which raises the stakes for millions of you. Stay weather aware today. Have a way to receive warnings tonight and check back in with us tomorrow as this pattern continues to evolve. As always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe down below so you never miss an update. A huge shout out to all of the members of our channel, because it truly would not be possible to do what we do here without every single one of you. And a huge thank you to our Velocity sponsors as well. If you would like to become a member, it is the join button down below, and I will also leave a link at the top of the description. Membership gets you members-only videos, members-only content, and a whole lot of other cool stuff, so make sure to check it out. We should also have another video for you tomorrow, so stay tuned for that, and stay safe out there.